with that important update. So we have New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, folks, saying he will not approve further funding for ICE unless there are major reforms to the agency. Partial shutdown. So when will it end? Here he is on ABC saying even with reforms may not be enough to change his mind. Listen.
Now the president says he's going to pay TSA, which we're starting to see happen. Why didn't he just do this months ago? It's what Democrats have been asking. Pay TSA, keep ICE out of our airports, and don't fund this reckless agency until there's real massive reforms, if at all, because the way they're doing immigration enforcement right now is dangerous. They're hurting Americans, detaining Americans, and we've seen killing them.
Let's bring in our panel, trial attorney and host of Today with Dr. Wendy, Newsmax contributor Wendy Patrick, and pollster at McLaughlin and Associates, John McLaughlin. Great to see you both. Well, even if ICE has reforms, even now that there's a new head of DHS, it's never going to be enough. Wendy, I'll let you start with the way they are saying how immigration enforcement is illegal. I mean, that's a pretty wild statement.
You know, Bianca, first, thank you for having me. This is a topic near and dear to the hearts of many Americans because many Americans are in favor of law enforcement. They want everybody to be able to do their jobs. They want TSA agents to be at work and funded. They want ICE agents to be able to do their jobs. Nobody wants violence in the streets, and it breaks all of our hearts to see anybody killed, whether or not they're here legally. Nobody wants that. The president has been very vocal on that point. But Cory Booker is on an island if he wants to defund ICE, sort of like they said we're going to defund the police and everybody had to do it about face, including President Biden. So I think he's probably going to be more on board with reforms. That's just great. But Bianca, one question I would have even in that respect, when is enough enough? What do reforms look like where they actually would agree to play ball with Republicans?
Well, never, because they want illegals in here, right? I mean, we know the answer. Just a little clip more of New York Congressman Dan Goldman, and John, we'll get your reaction on the flip.
Donald Trump finally did what he should have done 45 days ago, which is just to use the hundreds of billions of dollars that the Department of Homeland Security got in their reconciliation bill, the big ugly bill, to pay the TSA agents, and we would not be in this problem. But, you know, from our perspective, we are not going to give another dollar to ICE or CBP until there are serious reforms. And if Donald Trump has now understood that he needs to pay TSA out of ICE's budget, great. That just reduces ICE's budget.
Oh, so quiet part out loud. Trump should have just done this. I mean, they're not taking any accountability for their role in it. And they keep changing, John, what it is. Do they want reform or do they just want to have a never-ending story here up against the midterms?
They want open borders. They want America to be vulnerable to terrorists. They want us to have criminal illegal immigrants in the country. I mean, let's face it. Goldman comes from a city where the liberal city council voted to let non-citizens vote. That's their plan. They can't win among Americans, so we might as well open up our borders, let them come in and vote. And we just did a recent poll where 84-13, all voters in the United States want proof of citizenship before you're voting. And then you've got what's really tragic is Senator Booker and Congressman Goldman should be ashamed of themselves. A young woman, you've had a spate of attacks by illegal immigrants. And Americans want these criminal illegal immigrants out 85-12. And you know what? A young woman from Yorktown, New York, was gunned down while she was going to school in Chicago, Illinois, by a criminal illegal immigrant. And guys like Booker and Goldman should be ashamed of themselves because they're leaving us vulnerable at a time of war. And American citizens are dying in our streets and our communities because these guys want political points. They want illegal immigrants coming in and voting for them for Senate and Congress. They should be ashamed.
Yeah. You know what else is shameful, too? The way that people are allowing outside influences to have these No Kings protests is so discord here. We know none of this is organic, yet it plays out. And the violence, across you can peacefully protest, but we're talking about in Los Angeles, a protester vandalized a federal building, writing, "Kill your local ICE agent." One man was beaten. Federal officers were injured in California and Los Angeles. You know, ICE had to put out a statement. If you threaten ICE or their families, you face the force of federal law. I mean, Wendy, there is a concern still about how how safe that they are when they're not masked in the airports. President Trump said no, and they're still out there just trying to do their job, trying to uphold the law.
Yeah, you mentioned it. They're trying to do their job, trying to uphold the law. Senators want to find ways in which they can be reformed. You know what? Give some ideas that'll protect the ICE agents and provide other support, because that's the problem with being an ICE agent nowadays. It's a dangerous job, and it is such a dangerous job that you have these, as you mentioned, not flash mobs, but organized protests where if you actually see some of the footage of half of the people that are being interviewed why they're protesting, they have no idea. They believe this narrative that is not anything like the reality of what an ICE agent's job is, to protect the community, to do their jobs, to do it peacefully. It's one of those things where knowledge is power. If enough people really knew why they're in the spaces they're in, there'd be a lot more cooperation. And that's one of the narratives that I just hope gets a little more traction as we move into another summertime. We certainly don't want a replay of some of the summers past where things, particularly in Los Angeles, really got out of control.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if people really know where their senators are, they might get really upset, and their congressmen. TMZ wants everyone to see it, though. It's the left and the right. You've got Ted Cruz heading to Houston, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. He's over at Disney World. There's a shot of him also riding Space Mountain. And at the character breakfast. I mean, all this as the government shutdown is on. There's also Rep. Garcia. He's placing some bets there in Vegas. Not sure he's going to like how that looks. Amy Klobuchar, of course, of Minnesota. John, pretty creative. TMZ says, if you see your congressperson out there, just send us a picture and the platform will put it out there. What do you make of this campaign?
Well, I think the Senate should not be out right now, because President Trump wants to pass the Save America Act so that if 3/4 of the voters in the United States want to make sure that you have photo ID to vote. We already mentioned 4 to 5 voters want to make sure only citizens can vote. Congress needed to vote on that and get that passed. At the same time, we're in a state of war with Iran, and we need to have Homeland Security funded. So the Senate shouldn't have taken this recess. And, God bless them, it's Passover coming up tomorrow. You got Easter coming up, but they should have gotten this business done before they went home.
Yeah. And now they're enjoying things like vacation. Americans didn't enjoy their spring breaks. They were standing in line. But the bigger issue, too, Wendy, is what do you think everyone's looking at when they're working at the Coast Guard? They're not getting paid. FEMA, CISA, cyber, security should be also getting their paychecks. We're happy President Trump got TSA paid, but a lot of federal workers aren't enjoying their paychecks right now.
That's exactly right. A lot of those agencies you just mentioned are non-controversial. You don't see people out there protesting FEMA or the Coast Guard. And people forget you can't just say DHS equals ICE. It doesn't. And even if we fund TSA, you're absolutely right. Sometimes I say the unsung heroes that work at those other agencies are responsible for making life so much better for so many millions of Americans that I'm glad you're talking about that, because you're absolutely right. These would be not 80-20. They would be 100-0 issues if more people appreciated the extent to which taking a break from Congress, who wouldn't want to be at Disneyland, but taking that kind of a break and getting to work and solving this problem, that hurts at the average American.
President Trump says get back, and our adversaries are looking. Look at our ports and cyber. I hope the Democrats are okay playing fast and loose here, because there's a lot happening here, and let's hope they see the ramifications. We'll see if they get back. Thanks, guys. Good to see you, John, Wendy. Come back soon.
Thank you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.